I never believed that the man I married would one day break his own dignity just to keep us alive. My husband Adam works as a driver for the richest businesswoman in the city. He always said that no matter how poor we were, he would never let poverty touch his pride. But last month, everything I trusted shattered into pieces. One night, he came home very late. His shirt smelled of expensive perfume, his eyes were swollen, and his hands were shaking. When I asked him what happened, he stayed silent for a moment, then said something I never expected to hear. "Emily, I had to do it. I had no choice. I did it for us." Then he broke down crying. Later, I discovered the truth. The woman he drives for didn't just need a driver. She made him go to her bedroom at night, giving her sleeping comfort and massage, services in exchange for paying our debts and hospital bills. To save our home, he sold his dignity. Today, I am telling this story with a broken heart. Because love built on sacrifice is beautiful. But when that sacrifice destroys a person's soul, forgiveness becomes impossible. My name is Emily. I come from a humble background and was raised to believe that love, honesty, and dignity are the true riches of life. My husband Adam didn't have wealth when I married him, but he had a kind heart and strong morals. He worked as a personal driver for one of the most powerful women in the city, Mrs. Victoria Harland, a billionaire businesswoman known for her flawless lifestyle and commanding personality. We lived in a small, old apartment with cracked walls, a leaking roof, and weak electricity. Most days, our meals were simple bread and tea. But regardless of our struggles, Adam would smile and say, "One day, I will give you the life you deserve." He drove more than 14 hours daily, determined to change our future. I worked at a sewing shop, trying to help with expenses. Things started getting worse when my mother fell sick, and medical bills started building up. Then, our landlord gave us 3 days to pay pending rent or vacate. We had no savings left. I cried quietly at night, hiding my pain from Adam. I didn't want him to feel like he failed us. Around this time, Mrs. Harland began being unusually generous toward Adam, giving him expensive wristwatches, branded coats, and extra bonuses. When I asked, he said it was just appreciation for hard work. I trusted him, until the night I found the first sign that something was terribly wrong. Life started becoming tense after the small signs began to appear. Adam would leave earlier than before and return home very late at night. His eyes were always tired, not just from physical work, but as if he was carrying a heavy burden inside him. He tried to behave normally, but I could feel that something inside him was changing. When I asked if he was okay, he simply replied, "I'm doing everything I can for us, Emily. Just trust me a little longer." His words sounded comforting, but his voice felt empty. A few days later, while doing laundry, I found an envelope hidden inside his jacket pocket. It contained $5,000 in cash. I had never seen that much money in my life. My hands shook as I held it. When he came home that night, I confronted him. He said that Mrs. Harland had given it as an advance for extra driving hours and that he would pay her back. He hugged me tightly, telling me that soon our problems would be over. That hug didn't feel comforting. It felt like a silent apology. After that night, the doubts in my heart started to grow. One afternoon at the sewing shop, a coworker who knew Adam from the town asked casually, "Does your husband still visit that billionaire lady's villa late at night?" I froze. I didn't show emotion, but inside me, something cracked. That night when Adam returned home, he smelled of perfume I didn't own and had glitter on his shirt. He claimed he was dropping her at a late event. His answer was quick, too quick to be honest. Unable to ignore my instincts, I started observing him carefully. His phone was always on silent. He often stared into space when he thought I wasn't looking. One evening, while he slept, his phone buzzed. I hesitated, but my trembling hands picked it up. The message was from her, and it read, "Tonight, same as before. Bring massage oil. Wear the black shirt. Don't be late." My heart dropped. I felt like the air around me disappeared. I woke him up immediately. When he saw the message open on his phone and tears streaming down my face, he knew the truth was no longer hidden. He sat up slowly, eyes filled with pain, and couldn't speak for several seconds. I whispered, "What is this, Adam?" He simply said, "Let me explain." "Please." But I could barely breathe, let alone listen. The next morning, I followed him. When he got a call from her at around 8 in the evening and stepped out, I hired a taxi and asked the driver to follow at a distance. We reached her private estate, which looked more like a palace than a home. The main road leading to it was lined with palm trees and golden lights. I hid behind a tree far enough not to be seen. His car arrived. She came out wearing a silk robe, holding a glass of wine. She didn't just walk to the door. She walked to him slowly. Confidently placed her hand on his chest. She said something I couldn't hear, but he didn't step back. He simply looked down, ashamed, and followed her inside. I don't remember how long I stood there, maybe hours. At around 2 in the morning, he came out alone with a roll of cash in his hand. He looked shattered, as if a part of him had died inside that villa. I hid deeper behind the trees, unable to move. Tears poured down my face, but not a single sound escaped my lips. I returned home before he did. I didn't confront him immediately. I wanted to hear the truth directly. The next day, he came home early. He looked at me as if expecting a storm. I sat on the couch and asked calmly, why? He stared at me for a long moment before speaking. He said that everything started when the landlord threatened eviction. My mother's hospital bill was overdue. He didn't know what to do. One night, while driving her back, she asked him why he looked stressed. He shared everything. She offered financial help, but with a condition. She said she liked how obedient and calm he looked. She wanted him to give her massage services at night, to be present in her room until she slept. At first, he refused, but she kept increasing the offer. She promised to clear the rent, pay my mother's bills, even help me get a job. He said he thought it was just massage and sleeping beside her, nothing intimate. But slowly, her demands grew. He felt sick, but couldn't escape. He finally broke down crying in front of me, saying, "I didn't do it because I wanted to. I did it because I felt like I was drowning, and she was the only one throwing a rope." I know that rope was made of fire, but I was too scared to let go. His words were filled with shame. I sat there silently, feeling the pain cutting through my chest. My husband sold his dignity to save our home, but in that moment, I realized something even more painful. Poverty broke him long before she did, and the man I loved had been silently dying every night while pretending to be strong for me by day. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I stood up and said, "I need time to understand what you've done to us, and what you've done to yourself." Then I walked out, leaving him alone in the silence he had been living in for months. That night, for the first time, I went to my father's old house and cried until sunrise. I spent the entire night at my father's old house, sitting on the edge of the bed where I once slept as a child. The walls were faded, and the silence around me was crushing. I stared at the ceiling, trying to understand how we reached this point. Poverty can be cruel, but the moment we let it steal our dignity, it becomes far more dangerous than hunger. My mother, weak from illness, noticed my swollen eyes. She slowly walked into the room and sat beside me. She didn't ask questions. She simply placed her hand on mine and said softly, "A person can lose money and still live, but dignity lost is like losing the soul. Take your time. Decide what kind of woman you want to be after this storm." Her words echoed in my head like a warning, a reminder, and a demand all at once. Early in the morning, Adam came looking for me. His eyes were red, his hair uncombed, his face showing the weight of shame. He didn't wait for me to speak. He knelt on the floor in front of me and whispered, "I'm ready to leave everything. The job, the money, even the house. Just don't walk away from me." I looked at him, and for the first time, instead of anger, I saw pain deep, paralyzing, pain the kind that turns a person hollow. He said, "I hated myself every night. I told myself it was the last time, but then another bill came, or another warning from the landlord, and I convinced myself it was for us. But I know now that I didn't protect you. I destroyed us." Tears ran down his face uncontrollably. I couldn't find words, but inside me something had shifted. I realized that anger would only turn me into someone I wouldn't recognize later. But I also knew that silence would not bring back his dignity. Something within me gathered strength I never knew existed. I stood up and said, "If we want to start healing, we must end what is poisoning us, not by escaping, but by confronting it." He looked at me, confused. I told him to get dressed. That morning we drove together to the place where shame had been born, the office of Mrs. Victoria Harland. As we walked in, her assistants stared at us in surprise. She sat in her glass-walled office, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, sipping her coffee with elegance. When she saw us enter unannounced, she raised an eyebrow and leaned back in her chair. I didn't expect visitors this early.